Let's get rolling here. Today we're talking about human talent, creating a highly productive team. Now, I've been building businesses, so for those of you that are on the live call or those of you listening to the recording, may or may not be familiar with my background. I've been in business, building businesses now for, gosh, almost 27 years. So on October 28th of this year, it will be 27 years. And I got to tell you, it's been a ride. I've built several different businesses from scratch. The first one failed miserably because I hated sales, and then figured that out and built 6 businesses back to back. So that's a little bit about my background. You can find out more about me by going either to my LinkedIn or to my website at johnpyron.com. So what's the reason for today's topic? So this year, I have consulted probably 24 different businesses one-on-one. I only work with 12 businesses one-on-one at any given time. But the outside strategy sessions I've done, those sort of things, have given me exposure to companies that have lots of employees, companies that are just getting started. And the one common theme that seems to be going across the board, and it doesn't matter what kind of business you have. I've got IT companies, I've got construction companies, I've got solar companies, and so forth. Finding the right people, getting the right people interested in your business, and then how do you select them? What's the interview process that you should go through? How you should bring them on board? How you should hire them? What should you pay them? And then ultimately, how do you get them to operate at the highest performance possible? And so I've done a lot of that work this year. I've hired a lot of employees. I've created hiring processes for all the companies that I consult across the board. And so on today's call, I'm going to share with you exactly what I've done for those companies, exactly step by step. How do you recruit somebody? How do you assess them and walk them through a process? How do you select the right person? How do you review them on a regular basis? How do you set up a scenario where they are excited about coming to work? They just absolutely can't wait to get to work, and then you literally have to tell them to leave because they're fired up about it. How do you do that? I'm going to take a moment to drink some agua here. I decided to do today's call on my back patio, and I didn't realize that it's going to be in the 90s. So that's kind of fun. Okay, so any information, before I get rolling here, any information that I share on this call, and those of you that have been on the calls before know that I'm going to drop a tremendous amount of value bombs. I'm going to give away a ton of stuff, and as I go and as I talk, things are going to come to my head, and I'm going to go, you know what, I got a great resource for that, and I'm going to share it with you. So if you want any of the resources I'm going to share today, because a lot of you are going to be listening to this recording, what I need you to do is text episode 97. So it's very simple. Text episode 97, your name, first and last name, your email address, and you're going to text it to 916-741-0596. So 916-741-0596. There are those of you that are listening to this recording that you're listening to it a year from now, and you're going to text me, and if you don't include that information, I'm not going to know what to send you, okay? So the outcomes for today's call, here's what you can expect. I'm going to share with you rock solid information about a solid hiring process. So I want you to be able to walk away from this call knowing exactly what your hiring process is. Maybe I'm going to give you some ideas that you've never thought about today, but you're definitely going to get a bunch of information that you can take action on how to have a rock solid hiring process. Second is I'm going to share with you information on a rock solid review process. Now, I'm not talking about a yearly review. I'm not talking about the review you do every now and then. I'm talking about a monthly review process. And if you have lots of employees, how to break that down by teams and how to get the most out of your employees. Now, what I found when I implemented this review process, I originally implemented it in 2008. at a company called Intelligent Business Network Solutions. And I started having lots and lots of employees work for me, and I wanted to figure out a way, how can I help these people operate at a very high level? One of the things I discovered, because I started doing this DISC assessment and all these assessments I'm going to talk about today back in 2006. A buddy of mine, Phil Bristol, came in and introduced me to this. But one of the things I discovered in dealing with employees is they require a lot of communication. And if you communicate with them and you assess them on a regular basis and you give them honest feedback about what they're doing great, what they're not doing great, and you literally get into their world and help them become super successful at what they do, man, they'll take ownership of that area of your business, number one. Number two is they'll do it way more better than you could ever possibly do it. So we're going to talk about how to do that today. Next, I'm going to talk to you about how to engage with me and my team. So mostly what I focus on is companies that have less than 50 employees. Okay, that's typically the space that I play in. All right, let's hop right on into it, because we all came here to hear some information. All right, so in order to develop a great team, we got to have a rock solid recruiting process. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they think, let me actually put this over on this screen so you can actually see my notes, okay? And you'll see kind of the summary and the direction that we're going here, okay? One of the things about a recruiting process is this. Always, 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 and I can't repeat that enough, always be in the recruiting process. Here's why. Great employees never cost you money. They will make you money. Now, average employees or just good enough employees, those will cost you money. Give you an example. One of my clients out of San Antonio, Texas, they have 15 employees. One of the things I was talking to the owner there about is the fact that, you know what, the biggest challenge is you haven't been recruiting. And one of the things that we need to re-fire up in your business is we need to have a constant job ad for a salesperson, a constant job ad for key positions within your business. And you need to constantly be running those ads and constantly screening them and constantly running through the process. And here's why. You are going to run across an employee that is an absolute great employee. They love what they do. They will do it for free if they didn't have to earn money doing it. And those types of employees, when you run across them, you can always make room. Why? Because they don't really cost you any money at all. They're going to make you money. And so the first thing you got to understand about the recruiting process is it never, ever, ever stops. And the moment you stop the process, it's just like in sales, right? The moment you stop prospecting for new business, the moment you stop generating leads, at some point down the road, so this is the point where you stop, and down the road is where you need that prospect, you're going to feel a drop in your business. I'm coming off of May 20, says 24, 25, 26, 27, 27 months of straight growth in my business. And good for me, big deal. This isn't about me, this is about you. The reason for the 27 months of straight growth is I got sick and tired. I've been doing this 27 years. I was reminded in my current business, don't stop generating leads. Even when you don't need them, don't stop generating leads. And if you continue to figure that out, you'll never have a dip in your sales. It's the same thing in the recruiting process. As long as you continue to recruit, continue to be open for good talent, continue to look for rock stars. Trust me, they're not unemployed. Rock stars are working for another team. And when I'm done here today, you're going to know how to build a great team, which is going to attract more great employees just like them. The first question you got to ask yourself as an owner is, are you a great owner? Would you hire you? Now, some of you, that's exciting, right? Some of you, you're like, yeah, I'd hire me. Great. But if you cringe, if there's like a second thought to that, then we got some work to do for you. Because I will tell you this, and what's funny is all the clients over the last 3 years that have asked me to help them with their hiring process, that have asked me to help them with all the employees they have, once I take them through the entire assessment and go through the entire company, including them, what I found is about 95% of the time it's the owner's the big problem. And for some of you, that's a good thing to know, because now you can fix it. Others, it's not a good thing because you don't want to change. Okay? And so when we go through this, I want you to be thinking about yourself, not just your employees. Okay? Let me talk to you about an employee of mine, a guy named Adam Holt. At the time when I owned Intelligent Business Network Solutions, it was an IT managed service company, I was not looking for an engineer. Okay? But because I had continued to have a job ad out for engineers, for a level 1 tech and a senior engineer, Adam replied to one of the job ads. Got his resume, looked at all his credentials and what he's done. I'm like, this guy's solid, man. So I brought him in for an interview. Was not looking to hire an engineer. After doing an interview with him, I had my business partner Justin interview him as well, and Justin really liked him, and I liked him, and we did a background check, and we did all the stuff that I'm going to teach you how to do today. And we hired him. Didn't even have a position available, but ended up hiring a guy. The guy brought in over $500,000 in new business within the first year of me hiring him. He didn't cost me a dime. And it taught me a very valuable lesson: is always, 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 always be recruiting. Okay. So that's I hope you get that message. Now let's talk about the details. How do you recruit, right? Well, number one, it starts out with a job description. Okay. You got to meet certain requirements with that job description. And here's the different requirements. What's the summary of the job? Detail it out. What is the summary of the job? What is this job? What do you do in this job? Just kind of summarize the whole thing for them. Okay. Next, you want to list out what the primary duties of that person is going to be. What are they primarily going to be doing? Number three, put additional responsibilities on there. Now, if you're in a state, because a lot of you are in different states, it's going to be based off of your state requirements, right? Like in California, you're an at-will employee. And so I need to put language in the additional responsibilities that basically say, here's your primary duties, but anything in addition that I assign you as manager, you're going to need to do. So you want to have an area with additional responsibilities. Next, you want to have the knowledge, the skills, and or the abilities required for the job. This is very important to get detailed here. Bullet point it. Okay, what is the knowledge, the skill sets, and the abilities required? Next is, what are the competencies? And I'm going to get into what are competencies here in a minute when I go through an actual live assessment, okay, an actual sample assessment of an employee, and break that down for you and how to figure out the different areas so you can recruit better, okay? But you want to know, what are the competencies required? Do they need to be good at problem solving? Do they need to be good at analysis of data? Do they need to show up on time? Do they need to have resiliency? Do they need to be high on the teamwork scale? What are the competencies that are required for the job? Very important. Next, what are the physical demands? If it requires them to lift 100 pounds, then we need to make sure that that's in there. If it doesn't require a lot of physical demand, we need to describe what the physical requirements are. Maybe they got to sit down for 8 hours a day, and that person needs to be understand they're going to be sitting in a chair for most of the day, and they got to be obviously a person that has back issues is probably not going to apply for that job. Okay. Next, what are the qualifications? What are the qualifications they absolutely have to have? What are the educational requirements? What do they need to have as far as do they need to have a bachelor's degree or equivalent? Do they need to have a master's? Do they need to have an associate's, high school diploma? What are the qualifications? Maybe there's a certain certification they have to have. Maybe there is, you know, maybe they're a data entry person. They have to have data entry background. Maybe they're a bookkeeper and they need to have QuickBooks background. Whatever the qualifications are for the job, you need to have that in that job description. I'm going to get to why this is important here in just a second, so just bear with me. Next, what is their work environment? They're going to be in a warehouse. They're going to be in outdoors. So they're going to be going from, you know, inside and outside sales. They're going to be in the office, or they're going to go to the client site. What is the work environment? Okay. Next, what's the intent and function of the job descriptions? This is very important based off the state that you live in. Okay. Because job descriptions can be used to hire and fire people. And it's very important that you're very detailed in your job description. Otherwise, how's the employee going to succeed? How are you going to give them a review if you're not clear on what's expected and how they're going to be measured? You know, what are the measurements? What measures success? And that's where having primary duties listed out very, very well. These are your primary duties, and this is how you're going to be measured. Okay? And that's a job description. You want to make sure it's detailed out based on your business, and that every single function in your business has a job description. Now, let me share with you a secret. For those of you that want to go from where you're at into $1 million business, or a $5 million business, or a $10 million business, or even higher, right? Here's my advice. Detail out job descriptions. You know, shoot an arrow down the road and go, okay, I want to be a $10 million company. It's going to have this structure. It's going to have this management structure. It's going to have these roles. Detail out the job descriptions for all the roles that you need, okay? And reverse engineer it down to what you're doing right now, what some of your staff is doing right now, and you can train over time people that will fulfill that role for you, okay? Next, let's talk. Now we got the job description. Now we can create a job ad. Okay, so the job ad really has to answer a couple of questions. Number one is, we've all seen job ads like receptionist, will do a lot of data entry, must type 40 words a minute, must understand Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. Please send in your resume and your job, and please send in your resume and a cover letter, and to human resources. Now, that's one way to do a job ad. That's not how I would recommend doing a job ad. What I'd recommend doing a job ad is answering these questions. What is the job? Okay. Man, we're looking for an exciting receptionist. The day-to-day activity is going to be, call volume is going to be high. She's going to get lots of interaction with people, lots of interaction with employees. It's a highly productive environment, very fun environment to be around. What is the job? Describe it in such a way you're selling your position online. And with companies like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, all these different hiring functions out there, you're going to have to stand out amongst everybody else. Okay? So who is the perfect candidate? Describe your perfect candidate. The perfect candidate, let's just say I'm hiring for an assistant. The perfect candidate for this job would be somebody that can show up on time, somebody that loves to talk to people, somebody that likes a high degree of interaction with coworkers, somebody that can be very collaborative, somebody that likes detail-oriented work, somebody that just absolutely craves and loves a great team environment. You see the difference? It's a lot more energetic, it's a lot more enthusiastic, which is going to attract the type of candidate that I'm looking for. Then what you want to do is, what are the brief details about the job? This is not a place to put your job description, because job description I'm talking about might be 2 or 3 pages long. But a brief summary, here's the job. Here's the basics of the job. Here's what you're going to do on a daily basis. Here's the exciting things that are going to happen. You're going to have a high degree interaction with people, or you're not. You know, what are the details of the job? Next, what makes your company unique? Why should they come to work for you? You see? That's something that I've always wanted to answer in any job I've ever created is, okay, what sets me apart? Why come work for me? And here's the reason why. Think about this. We live in such a competitive market space today that if you don't set yourself apart from everybody else, why should they give 1/3 of their life to you? Why should they come to work for you? It has never been easier to be a virtual assistant to make money from any company in this world. And we have a whole generation of millennials coming up, and they don't fit the traditional norm. Okay? They want to know what's in it for them. Why should they come to work for you? What makes you so unique? You know, are you going to give them flexible hours? Because we've got a whole different generation for millennials, a whole different way of recruiting. The company better be exciting. Okay? You can't have a boring job ad out there if you're going to expect to work with a millennial, and if you don't figure out how to work with a millennial, you're going to be hurting, because that is the largest generation in history. They're coming up in the marketplace. They have great talent, but they really like the independentness of being able to take ownership of their area of responsibility. And if you can show them in a job ad, in a job description, in a job interview that, hey, you know what, you're going to have an exciting time here. You're going to contribute. You're going to contribute to something bigger, right? We're going to have a global effect. We're going to impact lots and lots of people, you see? So if that is what you do, and that's how your company is, and that's the uniqueness about your company, you want to make sure it's in that job ad. Now, here's the key to a successful job ad. Make sure there is a crystal clear call to action in that job ad. What I like to do is put in there's certain skill sets I'm looking for in a job. And one of them, if it requires a high degree of following instructions, I want to create a call to action that lets me know, does this person follow instructions, right? So at the end of my job, I would say, if you're interested in this job, I want you to send a cover letter detailing out the highlights of your skill set, number one. Number two, what makes you unique amongst anybody else applying for this job, okay? Number three, why you're interested in the job. And number four, the highlights of your resume. I give them always 3 to 4 calls of action, and I sit back and I look. I go, okay, did they follow instructions? Because if they don't follow instructions applying for the job, what makes you think they're going to follow instructions when they get the job? You see? So one of the keys, because once you put a job ad out, with the amount of people out there, you're going to get lots and lots, especially if you're using Indeed or ZipRecruiter, you're going to get lots and lots of people applying for the job. You need an effective way of screening, okay? Which leads me to my next step. How do you screen, okay? How do you screen resumes, okay? Well, it's based on the job ad and job description, okay? 5 minimum qualifications. Do they follow instructions? Do they follow the instructions in the job ad, yes or no? And if they didn't, there's too many candidates applying for a job today. Depends on the skill set I'm looking for, right? A lot of times there's a lot of candidates applying for that job. So my quick thing that's why I like ZipRecruiter and I like Indeed, because I can quickly screen them. Do they follow instructions, yes or no? If they follow instructions, I give them a thumbs up, okay? Do they possess the minimum skill sets? Because I'm very detailed in the job description. Do they possess the minimum skill sets? Next, have they had tenure in the previous jobs? In other words, what I'm looking for, okay, so Mary applied for the job, but let's see, her current job, she's been there for 4 months. The job before that, she was only there for 2 months. The job before that, she was there for 6 months. Mary's just jumping around. So I'm not sure that I even want to let Mary get through my screening process because she's jumping around way too much. Now, it depends on what that jumping around was, right? You know, if it's in the same industry, that's a problem, okay? Especially if it's a sales rep. You know, the telltale signs of a sales rep that sucks is they had a job for 3 months, then they had a job for 4 months, then they had a job for 5 months. So by the time the manager or whoever hired their butt figured out that they don't know how to sell, they had already been there for 3 months. Because we're just going to give them one more shot, right? And so they ended up getting their butt canned. But that's not what they tell you in the interview process. Next, do they possess the minimum educational requirements? Did they submit a cover letter like I asked them to? And if it's no to any one of these 5, they don't qualify. I'm not going to waste my time when there's too many resumes applying for the same job. Once they make it through that process, now what I want to do is a short 5 to 10 minute phone call to where I can screen them. And I'm looking for very specifics, okay? If their job requires them phone or interaction with my clients, I want to look at what's their voice like on the phone. Do they have a good phone voice? If I got a call from them, would I feel great about that call? Okay, looking for phone voice. Next, why are they looking? Why are you looking? What happened on the last job that it was not fulfilling that you're now leaving? Okay, because most of the time the job positions that I'm interviewing for, most of these people are not going to be unemployed. I'm looking for great people, not good people, not average people, okay, not average employees. I'm looking for great employees. Most of the time, great employees are employed. They're not on the unemployment line, and if they are, they're not there very long. And so I want to go, why are they looking? Next, what attracted them? I mean, the job ad I put out, what was it about that job ad that attracted them to my company? What was it? Okay. Next, if I called their previous employer, what would the previous employer say? What would they say? And I let them know, I will be calling your references. I will be calling your business references, your job references, okay? Fellow employees. I'll be doing a check on you. And if the job requires a background check, I tell them, hey, you need to be okay with passing the background check. I'm going to run your DMV. They're going to drive for my company. I may do a credit report. I may do a drug test. I want to make sure that they're cool with all of that on this 5 to 10 minute phone call. Because I don't want to waste, too many of you employers out there are wasting a shit ton of time with unqualified candidates. And if you put this little 5 to 10 minute time saver step in here, you won't waste a lot of time. So I make sure they understand all the stuff that's going to be involved in the process. And if they pass that, the next thing I want to do is I want to send them an assessment link. I'm going to get into an assessment here in a minute and what that looks like, but I want to send them an assessment that measures behaviors, motivators, and competencies. And like I said, I'll get into what that is here in a minute. They're salespeople. I want to test their sales skills. I'm going to show you how to do that. Next, I'm going to review the assessment and make sure that they're going to fit. Okay? And they're either going to fit. Let me see if I can pull this up here and push this up on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to see where they fit in this area. Where is the job-related area? Okay, so actually do an escape here. See if I can move this over here, bring this up, okay, and highlight this. Okay, so when they take the assessment, if I'm looking for lead engineers, operations managers, project managers, service managers, they're going to fall in this area. Sales are going to fall in this area. Marketing is going to fall in this area. Admin staff, service coordinators, warehouse staff is going to fall in this area. Technicians, engineers, analytical type people are going to fall in this area. So I need to have an effective way of figuring out where they fit. And that's why it's important to do an assessment. Okay, I'm going to get into what that is here in a minute. All right, moving on because we've got a lot more to get done here. Okay, finally, if the assessment fits the person, then what I want to do is I want to bring them in for a face-to-face interview. And I'm very specific on how that interview is going to go. And again, I'm looking, do they follow instruction? Do they follow instruction, right? So I'm going to have a list of prepared questions. Okay, now I have a document that has 3 pages of interview questions. So again, if you're interested in any, I'll put that in a Dropbox. I'm going to create a special Dropbox folder. And Chrissy, my assistant's on the call as well. So Chrissy, we want to make sure we create a Dropbox folder, and we're going to drag all the stuff in there, and that's why we need their email address so they can get the copy of today's recording, the video, and all that stuff. So again, text episode 97, your name, email address to 916-741-0596. Okay. So let's get back to this. Okay, interview questions. So make sure you have a list of interview questions. I'm going to give you the list of interview questions that I have, and you want to add to that. Next is tell them. Here's the thing. I don't care if they wear a suit. Okay. Now, obviously, if they're interviewing for me and I'm an insurance salesperson, they're going to dress in a suit. If I'm interviewing for a construction job, I don't expect them to dress in a suit. I want them to dress how they're going to dress every day when they work for me. Okay? I want to see how they dress. Okay? Tell them to dress appropriately for the job they are interviewing for. Okay? So if this person is going to have a high degree of physical interaction with my clients, this is very important. I want to see how they dress. It's as simple as that. Make sure something here. Okay. Just wanted to make sure Chrissy's monitoring my deal, make sure I can get communication going on here. Okay. Where was I at? Okay. Dress appropriately for the job that they interview. The other thing is, did they show up on time? Now, every scenario is different, right? So if they're on the way to the interview and they're late, my question is, did they call me? It's really simple. Okay? Did you get into, I got into a car accident on my way to your interview. Maybe they couldn't call. Well, great. Then I expect to get a call from them. Hey, I got into a car accident. I couldn't make it. Well, that's acceptable, right? But if they just show up 5 minutes late, I don't give a rip what their resume says. I can care less how the interview went. The phone interview, I can care less how the assessment went. If they show up late and they didn't call, I'm not going to interview them. And I point blank tell them. I walk out and I say, listen, this ain't going to work out. Okay? You're interviewing for a job. I'm very specific about the type of person I'm looking for. And the fact that you showed up late and didn't call me, okay, means that you're not a fit here. Because if they're going to show up late to get a job, they're definitely going to show up late when I give them the job. And then I got an average employee again, and the rest of my team is going to be pissed because I added an average employee to a great team. And here's the secret. Great people like to work with great people. Okay? Now, if you're just joining the call and you want to see the slides that I'm doing, okay, let me give you an address real quick. It is HTTPS, so it's the normal HTTPS, // Z as in Zulu, M as in Mary, .US as in Sam. So zoom.us /J as in Juliet, / 515-607-543. Or you just go to zoom.us, click join meeting, type in 515-607-543. Okay. All right, let's get back into this because I know some of you are texting me and you're not on the part where I'm sharing the screen. Okay. Did they show up on time? Here's the next thing. Did they bring a resume with copies of the resume? Are they professional? Right? And I tell them, hey, when you come to the interview, bring a resume with some copies. Did they do it? Okay. I tell them, bring a reference list. Did they bring the reference list? And anything else I want to require them to do when they come to the interview. Like if they're interviewing with me for a sales job, I tell them, the moment I decide I'm going to bring a salesperson in, here's the key for some of you hiring salespeople. The moment I decide I'm going to bring a salesperson in for an interview, I tell them, whatever product you're currently selling, you're going to walk me through your entire sales process. That is going to be the interview. So you just met me today, and I'm now a prospect. So whatever you do, whatever your process is, from now until you close me, your interview starts right now. And I just leave it at that. Because if they're a professional salesperson, they're going to send me an email. They're going to send me information about their product or service. They're going to set me up in their calendar. They're going to confirm the appointment. They're going to confirm the day before. They're going to come in. They're going to present their product or service to me. They're going to handle objections, and they're going to close. And if they can't do that, then I just save myself a ton of time hiring an inexperienced salesperson, right? So I tell them, hey, your interview starts right now, okay? Because I want to see their process, okay? So that's what I do differently with salespeople. Finally, after I'm done with the face-to-face interview, I'm going to do as many of those face-to-face interviews with those candidates to whittle it down. I want 3 finalists. 3 finalists I can bring in for a group interview. And here's the key to group interviews. If you've already got employees and they're going to work with one of your employees, have that employee in the final interview. Okay? Have yourself there, the employee, and you two interview that person together. If you have a manager, have that manager in there. Because I've got 3 finalists, I'm only going to give the job to 1. But I've been in situations where I've gotten 3 finalists, and one of them didn't quite make it, but the other 2, I'm like, man, I wish I could hire both of you. And I do my very best to hire both of them because they're great employees. Again, great employees don't cost you money. Okay. All right, let's move on because I want to go through the assessment process. But that's the recruiting process. If you get nothing out of today's call, just continue to recruit over and over and over and over again for the rest of your business life, and you will never have a shortage of great employees. The other thing it does, when you get an employee that comes on board and they start reading their own press clippings, they start thinking more about themselves than they should, and they start doing things like, well, you can't survive without me, or they start not following the rules. Guess what? When I have a nice, good talent pool waiting, I can walk that employee through a disciplinary process, hopefully turn them around, if not, can their ass. Okay? The moment I decide that hey, you know, I'm done with this person, I fire their butt quickly. Don't drag it out. Too many business owners drag it out, and it costs you a ton of money. And the only reason most employers drag it out is because they got an empty pipeline of candidates wanting to work for them. Again, it comes down to the sales model. If you want to grow your revenue consistently, always, always, always recruit new leads. It's as simple as that. All right, let's talk about the assessment process. As the assessment process has got to be the best thing I've ever learned. And I'm going to make this actually simple. I'm going to actually pull up an actual assessment, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what I do. Okay? I use a company called TTI Success Insights. I started using TTI in 2006. Phil Bristol did this on my company because I had, let's see here, at the time I had 12 employees and I kept having turnover. I'm like, what's the problem, right? So he came in and he did this assessment on all of my employees, debriefed them, debriefed me, and at the end of the day, he came to me and says, here's the reason you have high turnover is because you're a jerk. It's what he told me. He goes, you are a jerk. And I'm going, what are you talking about? He goes, you're an ass. To me, those were his words. Those are not my words. Those are his words. And I learned that, you know what, in order for me to have great employees, it is up to me, the owner. Okay, it's up to me, the manager, to adapt to their personality style, not them adapting to me. And the moment I embraced that, I started having lots and lots of successful teams. It's the same thing with all the clients that I have right now that I help build successful teams with, is teaching the owner and the managers, hey, if you want to have great teams, if you want to have high utilization, you need to find the right fit for your team, and then you need to communicate to them the way they want to be communicated to. And so let's go through this. So this is an example report of a lady named Sylvia Smith. Okay, she works for ABC Company. This is just an example. This is not one of my clients or anything. This is an example that TTI provided. So the assessment, we want to measure behaviors. We want to measure motivators, driving forces. We want to integrate those behaviors and driving forces together, and we want to measure competencies. Here's the deal. If I have a person's behavioral assessment, I've got about a 65% view of that person. If I have behaviors and motivators, driving forces, I have about an 83% view of that person. If I have a third assessment, such as competencies, I now have a 93% accuracy of that person. And having that information before I hire them especially if I've ran this on all my team already and doing a group, I can see exactly how they're going to fit into the system. Okay, so let's walk through this. So basically, the report's going to break down like this. Now, whether you go with me or whether you find another TTI person or you use Myers-Briggs, or there's all kinds of assessments out there, right? And just find someone that you can work with. I can help you decipher these assessments. There's a lot of great tools out there on the internet. But you want to measure behavior. You want to measure what drives a person internally, okay? Because behavior can be modified. Behavior can be changed and improved on and modified. Driving forces, what drives a person internally, very rarely changes. And then ultimately, I need to know what their competencies are, because based off the job, they need to have certain competencies, okay? So basically, in this particular report, it's going to summarize Sylvia based on everything, okay? Then it's going to go into what value to the organization does she bring. What's a checklist for communicating? It's going to tell me, hey, right here, read each statement and identify the 3 to 4 statements that are most important to her. I'm going to say, hey, Sylvia, read all these. They're not in any particular order. Read all these different ways to communicate to you, and I want you to highlight the 3 that are most important to you. Now I've got the key on how to communicate to her, right? Where most of us fail in our leadership, and here's how you tell if you're a leader. It's very simple. Look around. Look behind you, and are you being followed? It's as simple as that. If you're being followed, great, you're a leader. If not, you've got some work to do, okay? Because leadership is sometimes you've heard the term naturally born leader. I believe that leaders are naturally born, but also I believe it can be trained. Okay? In my case, I needed to learn some stuff, which is why I brought in Phil. Okay, so ways to communicate. It's going to also tell me the ways not to communicate. If I want to piss her off, this is what I need to do. And so I need to understand how not to communicate with her. Okay, this is all behavioral stuff. Then you're going to tell you how does she perceive herself? How do others perceive her under stress, under extreme pressure? How do other people see her? It's going to give me things like an absence of a behavior factor. And this is where most people make the mistake when they're talking about DISC, D-I-S-C, is they think, okay, this person's a high D. Well, no, if you look closely, this person's a high D and a low C. Well, the low C factor actually means something, and I'm going to get into what that means here in a minute. So these are the descriptors. When you're looking at behavior, dominance is the D, influencing is the I, S is for steadiness, C is for compliance. And depending on where you fall, right, will depend on what your behavior's like. And really it depends on the job as to what's important here. Just because somebody's a high, in this case, a high I and a high D, a low S and a low C, does not mean it's a perfect fit for this job. See, I need to know what the skill set is necessary for this behavioral makeup. And if I have that, I have a high degree of chance of hiring the right person. So if you're high on the dominance scale, so what does this mean, right? People, we as human beings, okay, are a mix of all 4. It's not just one or the other, and there's no right or wrong here. The D scale has to do with how do I deal with problems and challenges, right? So if I'm high on the D scale, the way I deal with problems is I'm more venturesome, decisive, competitive, determined, strong-willed, pioneering, ambitious, driving. You'll recognize somebody that's high on the D scale because they'll use the words like, just get to the bottom line. Okay, don't need a lot of information. They're going to make a decision quickly. They talk in very 1-word or 2-word statements, and they're very directive. Okay, if somebody's low on the D scale, they're more calculating, cooperative, hesitant, cautious, agreeable, modest, peaceful, and unobtrusive. Okay. Now, one of the things, Chrissy, I'm going to get you this this PDF. It's like a 59-page PDF. Drop this in that Dropbox too. Okay, that way that everybody can download this and look through it because it's very detailed on how this works. So on the I scale, I has to do with people. How are you with dealing with people, right? Some jobs require a high degree of interaction with people. Somebody that's a high I, inspiring, magnetic, enthusiastic, persuasive, convincing, poised, optimistic, and trusting. A person that is dominant in the I scale, these are the life of the party people. These are the people that walk in the room, they're flashy, they probably got a personalized license plate, they tell jokes constantly. You have to cut the interview, okay, because they will not stop talking. That's a person that's high on the I scale. A person that's low on the I scale is the total opposite. They're reflective, factual, calculating, skeptical, logical, suspicious, matter-of-fact, incisive. It's very important to know where they fall on how they deal with people and contacts, because certain jobs require a high degree of interaction with people, and other jobs require, no, I need a person that's low on the I scale, right? So knowing where that person falls is going to help me hire better. Next, we get into the steadiness scale. What does steadiness have to deal with? That has to deal with pace and consistency. What is the pace and consistency of this person? If they're high on the S scale, you'll recognize these people because they're very relationship-oriented, consistent, loyal. Their resume will probably have a job that they've been at for 15 years. They're extremely loyal. Okay? They have relationships that have been around forever, right? So they're relaxed, passive, patient, possessive, predictable, consistent, steady, and stable. That's a mark of a high S. The opposite is true on a low S. Like, I'm a very, very low S. I'm like a 7 out of 100 on the S score, which means I'm mobile, active, restless, impatient, pressure-oriented, eager, flexible, and impulsive. And that's so freaking true, okay? But you need to know that, okay? You need to know where do they fall in the area of consistency. If I'm looking for an administrative assistant, an engineer, somebody that is going to be more of a supportive role, they need to have a high S score. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Okay? Last, compliance. Where are they at in following processes, procedures, and constraints? Person that's high on the C scale, these are your engineers of the world. These are the accountants. These are the bean counters. These are the people that accuracy is of utmost importance. Details, very important. Somebody that's high on the C scale, cautious, careful, exacting, systematic, accurate, open-minded, balanced judgment, diplomatic. Those are the high C's. And I need to know where they fall on that scale. Somebody that's low on the C scale, like I'm low on the C scale. They're more firm, independent, self-willed, obstinate, unsystematic, uninhibited, arbitrary, and unbending. The lower they are on this scale, the more they're going to exhibit these things. Now, based off the job role, I need to know. Because ultimately, if you recall this right here, I need to know where they fall, okay? Based off of the role that I'm looking for. And if I have that, I have a high degree of hiring the right person for the right job. Okay? Adapted style. Everybody's got an adapted style and a natural style, and this is very important. Okay, it's going to tell me what the time wasters. If this person struggles with these time wasters, you know, here's what might be causing it, and here's the possible solutions. This is very valuable once I hire an employee. How do I help them overcome their limitations? Okay, gives me what the areas of improvement are. Summarizes their behavior. This person's high on the interaction scale, versatile, change, that sort of thing. It's going to tell me all the stuff I need to know about their behavior. Now here's something I want to point it out. Okay? The difference between a natural style and an adapted style. The natural style is here's who that person is. This is really who they are. Adapted is when they're at work, under pressure, under a deadline. And what I'm looking for, right, is I may want to run a different assessment called emotional quotient. Maybe it's a stress assessment. If they're adapting their behavior a lot, that means they're doing work that requires them to adapt their behavior, and it can create stress. So if you already have employees and you run these assessments on all your employees, I can instantly tell what employees are productive and what employees are not productive. I can instantly tell if a candidate is interviewing for a job, are they stressed out where they're at? You know, now I know I'm going to ask some certain questions in the interview process that's going to help them elaborate on what is causing them to adapt their behavior. You see? So in this case, Sylvia, in this assessment, she's a natural high I, high D, low S, low C. If I did not know this person, which I don't, I would be looking at, okay, this is a good relationship salesperson. Okay? This is a good promoter. Okay, somebody that's going to be a high promoter in my business. Now, if I go to the wheel, guess what? She's a persuader. Okay, persuading conductor, a promoting persuader. Okay, her natural is she's a persuader, promoting persuader. Okay, and when she's at work, she's a persuading conductor, meaning she goes into more of being a closer. Okay, somebody that's got a high D, lower I, lower S, lower C, has the ability to be a master closer. And depends on the job role is basically what I would hire her for. Okay, now that's behavior. Behavior can be modified. The most important thing to understand with behavior is you understanding your employees' behavior and knowing how to communicate to them to get the best result. That's the key to behaviors. The more you understand behaviors, the better you're going to be able to adapt. Okay. So Chrissy, also remind me, there is a series of 7 videos, training videos that I can put in that Dropbox that will train people on DISC and that sort of thing. So I want to make sure that that stuff gets in there as well. Let me get back to this. Understanding driving forces. Driving forces are very important. This was probably the biggest game changer in my own personal life, as well as understanding how to motivate employees. And that is understanding what drives a person. Okay? So it's going to summarize what their driving forces are, but basically there's 12 different driving forces. Okay? In this case, this person's numbered, it's broken down into 3 quadrants. Their top 4, which are their primary driving forces. Their middle 4, which is situational, which they can adapt, they cannot adapt. And their indifferent driving forces, which they can care less about. And so I need to know this stuff, and the reason is if I'm going to manage this person, I know what my driving forces are, but let's just say this person has completely opposite driving forces than me. Then guess what? Her and I are going to have a high degree of conflict if she comes to work for me, because we have competing driving forces. What's important to me is not important to her, and vice versa. I'll give you an example. I have a client of mine who he and his assistant had been working together for 11 years. And it's just in the past 4 years that he has been directly supervising her. For 6 months, no problem. It was great. The last 3.5 years, it's been like a root canal for both of them every freaking day of the week. And I'm like, okay, what the problem is? So ran the assessment on, I discovered that his top 4 driving forces are identical to her bottom driving forces. Okay? Her indifferent driving forces, and vice versa. Her top 4 driving forces are his indifferent driving forces. I don't care what company they work at. I don't care what business they're in. Those two will never, in this lifetime, get along in an employee-employer relationship. It's just not going to work. And so when I shared that with both of them and created a roadmap to transition her out, okay, because she's been with him long enough, we're not just going to like up and dump her, right? But, you know, helping her get landed on her feet with a great job, okay? Actually, she's going to build a business, okay? And helping her part ways amicably has allowed her to create the processes and procedures for every single thing that she does in that company. And so when I bring in a candidate to replace her, it's a smooth transition, you see. And the reason is those two are never going to get along. But if I didn't have this information, I wouldn't be able to make that determination. So it's very important. So you've got altruistic. Okay, here's the difference. Here's the deal on driving forces. Knowledge has to do with instinctive. Do I make decisions based off of my intuition, based off of past experience? Or do I require a high degree of intellectual knowledge? Okay, does the job give me what I need? In this case, This person needs to be able to make decisions based off of past experience. Okay? Utility. Am I a resourceful person or a selfless person? Do I require a lot of return on my time, energy, and investment, meaning I'm resourceful, or do I can care less about accolades and awards? Okay, which means I'm more selfless. Okay. Surroundings. Do I require a harmonious environment where it's got to be paint and the right decorations and the plant and just the entire surroundings got to be harmonious in nature, or do I require a high degree of objective? Okay. So for the sake of time, I'm going to drop all this into a Dropbox folder. I'm going to put in there 7 different videos that will walk you through every single aspect of this assessment and how to make your own determination when you're hiring people. Okay. So that is, let me get back to notes over here. Okay. All right, so we talked about the assessment process. The review process is simply this. Should be done monthly. Should be done monthly. Why should it be done monthly? Because employees require a high degree of communication. And if I communicate with them about what they're doing and what they're not doing, okay, and what I'm doing and what I'm not doing as an employer, and I set goals with them every month, then guess what? They're going to operate at a higher level. So, Chrissy, the other thing we want to drop in there is I have the employee self-assessment and the manager assessment. We want to drop those resources in there as well, okay? So the components of the review process is simply a monthly meeting. If you have lots of employees, you want to delegate that to the different managers and supervisors. And it's a simple formula. I sit down with the employee and I go, listen, here's all the stuff that we as a company said we were going to do for you. We agreed to provide you a laptop, a desk, nice work environment, training, certifications. We pay your workers' comp. We contribute to your Social Security fund. Most employees don't get that. That as an employer, that big old FICA that comes out of your check, I have to match it. Okay, so I'm contributing to your Social Security the same amount you're contributing. It's required. Okay, so I go through the list of all the stuff I agreed to do for that employee, and then I ask them, this is your once a month meeting where you can call me a jerk, you can call me an ass, you can complain, you can whatever you want to say, because if I don't know what's wrong, I can't fix it. And I want you to be happy. And so I create a safe environment for that employee to speak up. And it gives me my homework on what I need to do. Because again, employees don't just up and quit. They don't just wake up one morning and go, you know what, I think I'm going to quit today. No. They decide, hey, this job is no longer fulfilling. They go and put their resume out. They may look for a month, 2 months, and then one day they come in and give me a notice. And that pisses me off more than anything, because it's my fault as an employer, because I should have had better communication with my employee. And so this review process allows me to do that. The second half is, once I go, okay, here's all the stuff we agreed to do for you. How are we doing? Right? I either give myself pats on the back or I know what to fix. The next is I go, okay, here's all the stuff you said. And I whip out their job description. Right? That's why it's important to have a job description. Here's all the stuff you said you were going to do for us. Okay? Let's measure it. How are you doing? Right? What can you improve? How can I help you be better? Right? See, it's not an opportunity for me to kick their ass. Okay? It's an opportunity for me to encourage them to say, hey, you are better than this. Okay? If you're not succeeding here, it's because I suck as a leader. Okay? Or I need to improve, or maybe I'm not training you properly, or maybe I'm asking you to do stuff that doesn't play to your skill set. How can I help you? And then we set goals for that. And the true test is next month when we get together, did they take action, yes or no? See, too many employees or too many employers do a once a year interview, and then they wonder why they don't have a high productive employee. And this calls about how to have a highly productive team, and this is exactly how you do it. Okay? I know because I've done it for years. I have a lot of my clients doing this, and they're having a lot of success. So you want to do that. Now, here's what's funny. Amy Tacker, one of the best assistance employees I ever had. I said, you know what, I don't see any value in doing this monthly thing, and so I stopped doing it. And then finally I went out to lunch with her after about 4 months of not doing it. She goes, you know, one of the things I miss more than anything is that monthly review process, because I really like to know where I stand. And I'm like, I had no clue it was important. Been doing it ever since. Okay? So that's the components. All right, call to action. Okay, if you're looking for the screen, here's the deal. If you got a lot out of today's call, you listen to the recording, whenever you're listening to this, whether you're on the live call or listening to the recording, here's the call to action. Number one is you need to send me a text message, episode 97, so I can get you access to those resources in that Dropbox folder. So you're going to text episode 97, your full first and last name, your email address to 916-741-0596. So 916-741-0596, and you're probably asking yourself, oh, you're going to add me to your email list. Now here's the thing. I'm going to. Yes, I am. But I'm not going to spam you. I don't do any of that crap. And those of you that know me and that are on my list, I only put out valuable stuff. So you're not going to get inundated with a bunch of junk. Okay? And you'll be invited to events and so forth. Next is if you really resonate with me, you resonate with my message, maybe you're curious about what else I can do for you, whether it be one-on-one, a mastermind group. I've got a bunch of training stuff. I've trained 285 coaches, so there's probably somebody I can introduce you to. Just go to my website. Go to johnpyron.com. That's John, P as in Paul, YRON.com. And there's a button there called Book Appointment. Okay? So it's johnpyron.com. If you want the actual URL, johnpyron.com/book-appointment. And that gives you access to my calendar. And just book yourself an appointment. Okay, I'll give you 10, 15 minutes on the phone. If we resonate and I can help you out in any way, shape, or form, be more than happy to help you out. If you got a lot of value out of this podcast and you're listening to this on iTunes, rate this podcast, because it's only in the ratings that our ratings improve on there, and I know what content's valuable to you and what I should teach on more. And then, as always, go to johnpyron.com, and you can access all kinds of resources. There's stuff on the YouTube channel. There's videos. Now that we're back doing this podcast every week, we're gonna take this to God knows how many hundreds of episodes. And your feedback's very important. So, hope you got a lot out of today's call. Go out and make it happen. Your business is worth every ounce of energy for you to go for it. So go out and make it happen, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.